podcast. I'm your host, Preston, and you're listening to a podcast where we talk about church leadership, structure, organization, everything. We talk about it. It's about the church and efficiency and growing the kingdom. We talk about it here at Hey Church. We're super stoked to have you on this episode. Before we get started, we are going to change up the format of this podcast in the next couple of weeks, where we are starting to incorporate guests on the show. And these guests are going to be pastors or thought leaders in the church space. And we're going to talk about things like church philosophy, church structure and organization, tips and things to look out for from church planters to pastors who have been in it for a long time. We think this is going to be super valuable for pastors and leaders. And if you are interested in sharing what you have experienced in being a pastor or a church leader, we'd love to have you on the show. If you think what you've been through or what you've experienced, or just you think you've got something great to say and want to jump on, go ahead and email us at podcast@heychurch.co, and we'd love to get some questions out to you and get started. Well, on today's episode, we are going to talk about church pastors who are feeling a bit stressed out. We're going to talk about efficiency in setting up your world for success. So if you're a pastor, a church planner, you've been managing a church or leading a church under 250, which is the normal size of a church in the US, a small church, churches under 100 even, then you probably have worn a lot of hats. You are preaching on Sunday. You are doing pastoral care during the week. You might be leading worship if you're one of those creative types. You might be doing all the bookkeeping and finances. You might be running social media, updating the website, or you might be letting all of that fall to the wayside. Now, if you are feeling stressed out, it's no wonder. You are running an organization and you're probably doing it by yourself. And that's a lot of work. If you compare what a church is to a business, you should realize that in businesses, you have a lot of people usually doing separate roles, and businesses, they have to be more efficient in terms of getting sales and profits and things like that. Whereas a church, we just manage things. We just make them happen, but they don't always are efficient or working the best that they could. So I want to encourage you, one of the first tips is to step back and think through, what are you currently doing and how can we make it better? Take that strategic time to think about it. You can go back to some of our old podcasts where we talked about setting up organization charts or responsibilities. And that's super helpful for understanding what you do as a pastor throughout the week and what you can delegate. Now, this leads us to our actual first tip, which is learning to delegate and utilize the resources you already have. So if you're a church and you recognize that you're doing a lot, you're a pastor, you're doing a lot, the first thing I would suggest that you do is take stock of all the resources you currently have. That includes volunteers and people, as well as actual assets. So whether it's finances or resources that you have around the church. And then start organizing those in a way that can help you achieve the best outcome for you. So again, you can look at making a responsibility chart or matrix on what are your key roles that you're good at as a pastor. So for instance, if you're great at preaching and pastoral care, and that's all you're good at, which is all you're called to do really, then you should just do that and look to ways that you can delegate the rest of those tasks. And the first part of that is finding the human resources. Find the people that are already in your church who have these skills that would be able to volunteer and help get those done. That could look like business owners that go to your church, or bookkeepers or admins that are already in your church and work in that role, and just asking them to volunteer a couple hours a week to get it done. The thing is, if it takes you 10 hours to do it, but you're not good at it, it might take somebody who actually does it as a profession, maybe an hour or half an hour, depending on the actual task, which means you shouldn't feel too bad asking them, because in your mind, you might think, wow, this task is really just draining me of time. But it's draining you of time because one, you don't like it, and two, you're not good at it. So if you find the right person, don't feel too bad about asking them to volunteer. And of course, when you ask somebody to volunteer, they can say no. So get over that fear as well. The next thing is finance resources and allocation. Think about the resources you already have. So that's tip number one, is learn to delegate, find the right people, get them in the right seats, make a responsibility chart of what you do, and start delegating the things that you don't like and the things that you're not good at. The next thing is a very practical tip, and it's embracing software solutions for scheduling, for accounting and bookkeeping, for all sorts of things. We are in a technology boom. There is so much that's going on. AI over the past year and a half has unlocked a lot more potential for these platforms too, which means you don't have to be super tech literate to get a lot of good work done. I know churches that are 1,000 plus, a couple of hundred that still don't have scheduling platforms. They don't use Planning Center. They don't use CHMS, a church management software. They're using Excel spreadsheets. They're using text messages, which is great. That's awesome that they're doing that. They're saving money. That's great. But what that is doing is it's taking resources from a person who now has to create an Excel spreadsheet and they have to do that. And then when a volunteer can't work out for that week, they can't volunteer for that week, they then have to update this Excel spreadsheet. They have to do a lot of work. There's a lot of great software out there that can save you so much time. And if you need help finding that software, you can email us. We will help you find it. You don't even have to be a customer. We just want to help you get more efficient. So use some software scheduling. There's Planning Center, which is a great scheduling platform. They have a lot of other tools as well that you can utilize. There's also more affordable plans or softwares like Tidely. You can do an all access plan with them that gets you access to like Breeze, a CHMS. There's a giving platform, text messaging. Big fan of them. There's a couple other ones that you can find out there. Just Google church platforms for volunteering or reaching out to people. You can also look into bookkeeping softwares. There's QuickBooks, there's Xero, there's Wave, there's a million platforms out there that can help you manage the tasks that you have in your day to day to get them done. So embrace that software. And what I would do, my suggestion here in the key tip is look for a software that has everything in one suite. That means there's one brand and you're dealing with everything under it. So things like Planning Center or again Tidely, they have multiple products under one brand, which makes it very easy to manage where you don't have to remember multiple logins for other softwares and whatnot. So obviously find what's best with you for you in your situation, but just start using software. It's going to save you so much time. Our third tip today is outsourcing specific tasks to specialized providers. Now, if you're a pastor and you're saying, look, that's great, software is awesome, but I just don't have the time to even manage that, or you just don't want to, then this is where our first tip leads into our third tip is if you have the finances, the resources, start sending your tasks to specialized providers. And again, using a bookkeeping, for example, use a group. You can find these guys on Instagram. They're called Live Your Parable. Parable is the company name. They're awesome friends of ours. They do your bookkeeping, your accounting. Check them out for all your things finance. They're not sponsoring this. We just really like them. And they're a great resource for churches. And that's a great example of a specialized provider that is going to help you take that finances off your plate. And it's somebody who's good at it, which means they can do it in less time and more professional than you can. And it's going to save you time and stress and that anxiety of having to get that stuff done. And now, of course, there's Hey Church. If you want to work with a team of admins, creatives, and communication experts, we're here to handle any of these tasks as well. So if you are saying, hey, I'm having a trouble communicating with the church during the week, I can't keep up with my emails, my texts out to everybody, my social media, it's chaotic. Well, just reach out to Hey Church. You can submit a task every week, and our team's going to handle all of that for you. And that just saves you time. It's going to save you money in the long run because you're not spending that paid hours trying to figure this out. You've got a team that can be efficient in handling that and get your church community growing and healthy. Our fourth tip today is utilizing pre-made creative assets and other DIY solutions. Now, that tip three, outsourcing to an agency or a team like Hey Church, is for pastors who are saying, hey, I don't have the time. I don't want to deal with this. I just don't have the resource for it. I want somebody who's great at it to take it on, which is a great way to think about things. But some people are DIYers. Some people just love to get their hands dirty, figure it out, do it themselves. And I would recommend for you find pre-made creative assets or other DIY solutions. So softwares where you can actually start playing with things. So if you want to use Tidely sites for your website, you can actually build that out or use a Squarespace and use a template that kind of guides you, but then you can take it from there. I'm a big fan of making sure you have cohesive assets. So if you're going to buy like a social media pack or some other creative assets, Get something that looks cohesive to keep your branding on brand, for lack of a better word. Keep it consistent, and then just run with it. Use Canva, use Figma, use Squarespace, use something that is a great software or creative solution for you where you can still handle it and do it yourself if that's the type of person that you are. So today we've talked about 4 tips for getting more efficient. That first one, learn to delegate and utilize the resources you already have. Embrace software solutions. Outsource your specific tasks. Again, reach out to Hey Church, hey@heychurch.co, and utilize pre-made creative assets for DIY solutions. Thank you so much for being with us today at Hey Church. Again, if you have questions about this, if there's any other solutions or tips that you would like churches to know about, email us either at podcast@heychurch.co or hey@heychurch.co. We are here to help out. And if you're interested in work with us, you want to schedule a demo, you can go to heychurch.co and schedule a demo with us or check out any of the other areas that we can help you out. Y'all have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you later.